We're going to watch Iain swim now, and as we're watching Iain, we can look at his body position straight away, and his body position is generally pretty good. His head is a little bit high, which is forcing his legs a little bit low into the water. What I'm a little bit more concerned about, though, is his leg kick. He's not actually kicking his legs, it's more sort of like, he's not kicking from the hip, he's kicking from his knee, and occasionally when he breathes, he really puts in a big leg kick to use it to get that body round and actually straighten himself up in the water. What we can also see is, as he's pulling through the water quite clearly with his left arm here, you can see that he's dropping his elbow and he's reaching too high up into the water. And what we're going to do now is just look at him underwater, and you can see straight away, it's not the best view, I'm sorry about that, but the elbow is pulling through, and it's pulling through a little bit too early. Looking at him from the other side, you can see that his elbow is pulling through quite early in the stroke, and he's dropping that elbow, and that's all coming from when he puts his hand into the water and then reaches up. And if you look at this shot, when his stroke's actually speeded up, you can see that he's reaching, he's hardly even getting into the water. What we can also see is he's quite clearly crossing the axis. He's consistently breathing to one side, and he's not really swimming in a straight line. I know we're in an endless pool and there's a jet stream there that he's having to swim through, but he's falling off that jet stream. And you can see that his hand skims through the surface of the water, particularly that right hand. So what we're doing now is I've slowed him right down, and we're thinking about catch-up, and it's almost catch-up. And immediately, by thinking about catch-up, you can see that he's just slowed that stroke down just a little bit. So what we're going to do now is just slow it down even more, and we're going to break Iain's stroke down, and we're going to look at it piece by piece in terms of the arm action. Now the drill that he's doing here is a shoulder tap drill, and that shoulder tap drill is very simply, you just tap the shoulder in a catch-up type stroke. By doing that, he's forcing his arm through, forcing a nice high elbow through the stroke. And note, he is actually sort of tapping the shoulder. Look what's happening to his head. It's really slowing him down. His head's nice and still, so he's looking through, he's looking forward. What we're doing now is, because he's got particularly on his right arm, so the arm nearest to us, he's got a fault in terms of it goes into the water, it skims through the water. So what we're doing here is he's using his other arm as a guide, and he's driving through the water. I can only apologise for the coach. He's driving through the water. I have to point out that we're outside at this point, and it's absolutely peeing down in the rain and freezing. So he's driving into the water. He's got his head looking down. He's really got to focus on looking down to the bottom. You can see we've been working on his leg kick. His leg kick's a lot higher just from where he is there. So he's really focusing on keeping that arm, lead arm forward, and working on that arm action. So getting that arm into the water and driving straight down. Now what we're doing here is an unco drill. And this is a really, really tough drill, and I wouldn't give it to just anybody in the pool, but this is very specific to Iain. What it's doing is he's actually having to think about so many other things that he's not thinking about trying to reach forward and put his arm into the water. What he's doing is putting his arm in and just getting on with it, because he's doing basically an uncurl drill. It goes in, it goes up. You touch the shoulder, you go up into the sky. What we're looking for here is we're looking to really slow him down. I'm working on the theory that if you can swim your stroke really, really well, slowly, it's actually easier to swim it at pace. So we're really slowing him down here and really focusing on him. What we've also done is given him a pull buoy, so he's not thinking about his legs. And immediately I can see that he's a lot straighter in the water. We can also see that his left hand is quite accurate and it pulls through the water. What's happening with both hands, though, that's a bit of a worry, is that he's putting his thumb in first. Now the biggest problem I have with a thumb entry is that as you put your thumb into the water, you have to rotate your shoulder over the arm, so away, so you rotate your shoulder inwards and actually have to catch the water. As you catch the water, if you think about it, you roll your shoulder in, your arm's already stretched, and just think about where your elbow is. You'll drop your elbow. So to counteract that, we're trying to get Iain to think about putting his little finger in first. Here he's doing a drill called fingernail trail, and he's trying to just basically trail his fingers through the water, but you can see he's still putting his thumb into the water first, particularly with that right hand. So what we can do now is to get Iain to start thinking along the lines of, I don't want to put my thumb in first, I need to put my little finger in first, and actually that will start to neutralize the hand. He really needs to work, particularly on that right hand, on getting that little finger in first and taking out some of that shoulder rotation. Hip rotation's okay, but he really needs to work on that shoulder rotation and keeping that little finger going into the water first. And I don't want the little finger in first. I want the fingers to go in as a straight line. And I want him to think along the lines of, he's putting a smiley face on the palm of his hand, he's putting that smiley face into the water, and he's going to show it to the person behind him for as long as he possibly can throughout that stroke. So you can see from his left hand, his hand's going into the water, and if we slow him down, we start to get that action of he's really starting to get a nice long stroke, particularly with his left arm. I'm quite impressed with his left arm. His right arm, on the other hand, before he gets too cocky and his head swells, is not quite there. We really need to think about getting that little finger in first, really focus on it. You can see this is right at the end of the session. We're still putting our thumb in first on that left hand, on that right hand side. Left side, it's pretty good, and it's starting to shape it out.